Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to Answers Life. I hope everyone's doing great today. I am checking in from Blount Cultural Park here in Montgomery, Alabama. I know it's been several days since I put out a video, and my apologies. But again, I've been real busy. I've been out here looking to purchase at least one investment property in this crazy housing market. So I thought I would pop on here and give you guys a brief rundown of what I've been up to, basically. Now, the other day I did end up going up to Indiana to look at a few houses, and I did not do any videos because honestly, the way I used to go about looking at a house, when it comes to buying a house, now I've changed my strategy, and I'll probably put out a video discussing that. So I figure if I find an investment property, I will gladly do a video, give you guys a quick tour of that property. But basically, when it comes to buying an investment property, just like I guess you should do when it comes to buying a property for personal use, there's certain things that I like to do that could potentially save you a crap load of time and money. Because if you look at properties to purchase, rather it be for investment purposes or rather it be for personal use purposes, if you know in advance that the property is no good, then obviously you're not going to move forward and bother to hire a home inspector. You're not going to move forward and bother to hire a home inspector. And in some cases, hire maybe a mold specialist to check for mold and all that type of stuff. So it will save you a considerable amount of time and money. So yeah, I'll do a video one day just letting you guys know how I'm going about looking at investment properties. I'm gonna let this person walk by and then I'll continue my conversation. Okay, anyhow, like I was saying, that's what I've been up to the last several days. I took a trip up to Indiana. I only had one day off of work, so I took that entire day, drove up to Indiana, looked at a few houses, and then I had to drive back here to Alabama for work. So it's been very tiresome. It's been very busy, and that's why I haven't been posting as frequently as I should. And I'm going to share with you guys just some of what I've been up against when it comes to property searching. There's this one property up in Indiana that I really wanted to buy. It was I'm not going to give you exact locations. I'm just going to tell you that this property was in a smaller city. Decent looking house. Came on a third of an acre. And before my realtor even got a chance to go to the property and do basic due diligence, the property was already pending a contract. Because there's a few different areas that I'm looking at when it comes to buying a property. I got a few areas in Alabama I'm checking out, and also got several areas up in Indiana that I'm also checking out. So this is one particular property. Look, the pictures look good anyway. It's set on a little over a third of an acre. But my realtor didn't even get a chance to do her due diligence before someone came and snatched that shit up. So anyhow, I've been going back and forth with my realtor up in Indiana. She's a wonderful realtor. She's been working very hard for me to help me find the right property up in Indiana. If I can find one in a timely manner. I mean, she's been my boots on the ground up there, doing all kind of video tours, and then she texts me the videos of the houses, and she'll talk everything through. I mean, we've worked together before. She knows what I'm looking for. She's got a very healthy idea of what my expectations are. So, and that's one thing for those of you that are new at buying a house. You know, make sure you have a good realtor. Make sure your realtor also realizes what your expectations are. Now, I would say any good realtor, after working with you for a while, they're going to pretty much know what it is you're looking for. Or two, if they ask you, obviously tell them. So, yeah, so my realtor, you know, she's been my boots on the ground, doing all kind of not virtual, but doing all kind of video tours. And then for the houses that she looks at and she tells me about and she shows me a video of, if I like what I see, then, you know, I have my realtor make an appointment, and then I drive up to Indiana from here and I go look at the properties in person. Because I don't believe in putting in an offer on a property before I've seen it in person. Now, I know, I mean, up in most parts of Indiana, the real estate market is still busy. It's still crazy. I don't care. I'm going to still continue to do my due diligence. I'm not going to even as much submit an offer on a property until I've seen it in person. Now, there's this one property. Again, it was in a smaller city up in Indiana that I looked at. And at first, I was very excited about the property. I mean, it was on a regular city-sized lot, nothing special about the lot. The house was small. It was like maybe, I want to say, 800 and some odd square feet. And it looked like the house has been renovated. But I was excited about it because, you know, the pictures look good. You know, my realtor done walked through and I asked her about the floors. She told me that the floors are solid. Now she did tell me that this particular property had a little bit of a dip. So I'm thinking, okay, well, depending on what the dip is, because if it's like a dip on the floor, I could probably go in the crawl space and, you know, put up little hydraulic beams to deal with the dip. And that's what I was thinking. So anyhow, I drove up to Indiana and I looked, and one of the houses I looked at was that particular house. And when I got in, I immediately saw the dip. And also when I started walking around the house, I would say after about a couple of minutes of walking around the house, I noticed that the floors were weak. Because, and again, I'm going to probably do a video just educating you guys. I'm going to show you guys of how to test the floor to see if it's weak or not. Many of you might already know how to do this, but for those of you that are new in the real estate, I'm going to do a video one day and just kind of give you guys an educational course of how to check out a house, just basic knowledge type stuff. But anyway, so I walked around the house and I noticed almost immediately that the floors were weak. Now this house, you know, it was clean. I mean, I could tell that the paint was fairly fresh. You know, all the appliances appeared to work like supposed to. The plumbing, you know, the plumbing looked good. It had a garage. And the roof was new. I mean, the roof, it was a new metal roof. So I was impressed about that. Now, the inside of this house didn't quite, you know, make any sense. I mean, this house technically, you know, now this house is advertised as a 2-bedroom, but technically it's only a 1-bedroom. Because what happened was, these people, I mean, there's like 1 bedroom technically, and then looks like there's another area, and it was more like a utility room, and a large one, with a closet. It looked like what they did was they done took the utility room and they done made it into a bedroom. At least they tried. but they did a piss poor job at doing that. I mean, anyone that knows anything about real estate would have been able to tell immediately that this house is not a two-bedroom. Although they're advertising the house as a two-room, it's technically only a one-room. So the floors on this house is weak, and this house is technically only in one room. So even if you're purchasing a property for investment purposes, one lesson I've learned from the past is, especially when it comes to buying an investment property, you never know. I mean, you might get a good tenant, you might get a crappy tenant. Provided that you get crappy tenants and they tear up your property, or something else transpires and now you might have to sell the property for whatever reason, my attitude is, whatever property I purchase, I want to also be able to sell in a timely manner without having to lose money in the process. So, given that I've had a bad luck with the last two pieces of real estate that I've sold, I've had bad luck. I've lost money. So from now on, whenever I buy a piece of real estate, I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm going to be a little bit more choosy. And taking some of the lessons that I've learned from my recent mistakes in the real estate world, I'm thinking that this particular house I'm talking about, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to advertise this house as a two-bedroom house because it's technically only a one-bedroom. And there might be people that actually need two actual bedrooms. This house was not an actual two-room house. It is only a one-room. So I wouldn't feel right advertising it as a two-room and charging as a two-room, and technically it's a one-room with a extra large storage area that they did a poor job at renovating. And then secondly, if I were to buy this particular house, I would have to tear up the floors and install all new floors. I don't really want to have to do all that. And if I hire somebody to do that, it's going to cost me a small fortune. So taking all that into consideration, the money that I would be able to make per month for this particular property would not be enough for me to justify all the repairs I would have to do up front before the house would even be rent worthy. So that's the reason why I'm not buying that particular house. And then I looked at another house in another smaller city up in Indiana. Well, really I looked at a total of 3 houses. So the next house I looked at, again, it was a smaller house. The house was like 800 square feet. It had a smaller lot. The lot was like maybe 6,000 square feet. So with this house, I go inside the house with an open mind. Now, the floors on this house were solid. However, I could tell that it needed another roof. Now, this house wasn't that big, so the roof probably wouldn't have been super expensive. But then as I continued to do my inspection, I also noticed black mold. I've dealt with mold before, and depending on how deep that mold is, it could be a small fortune for me to hire mold specialists to properly get rid of that mold. Now, I know you got a lot of investors and landlords that don't properly get rid of mold. That is, use a bunch of crap to cover it up and hope that nobody notices. And then when their tenant starts getting sick, and then they call their landlord, the landlord gives them a runaround and gives them a bunch of bullshit. That's not how I do business. If I ever got into being a landlord again, that's not how I do business. I don't believe in that. I mean, yes, I want to make my money, but I'm not going to screw people over, and I'm certainly not going to put people's health on the line. Now, because the little kids breathe that stuff in, it could cost them their life. So I'm not having no one's blood on my hands. So when I looked at the fact that this house has some black mold, I decided, you know what? And also the neighborhood of this house, the neighborhood was okay. I mean, not the greatest, but it was okay. So with that house, I told my realtor I would think about it, which I'm probably not going to go forward with that house either. But since the house for the most part does got solid bones, I would think about it. which for me, when I say I think about it, it means I'm going to keep on looking and see if I can see anything that's better to where I could, you know, make more money, to where I can turn around and rent it out sooner and have to do less work. So then I looked at this multi-family unit, which is also in a smaller city in Indiana. And, you know, that unit needed some work. It needed a considerable amount of work. There is a section of this unit that looked like some homeless person at some point may have been living in there before they got kicked out. So this unit was big. It was a 2-story. And I honestly do not want 2-story homes. I prefer my houses to be single-story. And after going through this multi-family unit, I also prefer my investment properties to be under 1,000 square feet. That way, it's lower maintenance costs, lower repair costs, lower costs for utilities for whoever my tenant is. That way, my attitude with that is, if I have a tenant and their utility bills are reasonable, chances are they're gonna be more likely to pay my rents. But if the house is yay big and utility bills are crazy during the winter time, especially during the winter time, they're going to be more likely to skip all my rent because they may not have money because all that money is going to be going towards utilities. And B, they're going to want something a little smaller, a little more energy efficient. So the likeliness of me having more turnover on a larger property is going to be higher. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but that's my outlook on it. And I'm here in Montgomery, Alabama. And like I said, there's a few areas here in Alabama. I'm going to look into. Montgomery is one of them. Now, to back up, I am looking at larger cities in Indiana too. It's just that at this point, I haven't found anything that is in my price range because Indiana's housing market is more expensive and it's also more competitive than the housing market here in Alabama. So I'm here in Montgomery. You know, I just got done a little bit ago checking out a couple of properties. One property I looked at, the property was in good shape, very clean, everything, a lot of the things were new. You know, the house was a solid house. And the repairs that this house had were not, it seemed like the person did a good job on doing the repairs. It wasn't half-ass. And I'm thinking about buying that house. And if I do buy that house, you guys will see that video. But it's not written in stone. I'm still thinking. I just took the owner's contact information, and I told the owner I'll think about it. But the only bad thing about that particular house is it's located by the freeway, which even if I'm in the backyard of that house, I can hear the cars off the freeway. So it's not one of those areas to where it's going to be 100% quiet, peaceful, you don't hear shit. Maybe in the middle of the night it might be, but during the day, you're going to almost always hear traffic on the freeway. And, now there's people that do live in that area, and there didn't appear to be too many vacant houses over there. So people, obviously, they deal with what they deal with. But due to that, and also the neighborhood, it wasn't the best area. So those are the reasons why I got to think about that house before I decide to make any more moves. And there's another house I looked at also here in Montgomery, which that house, the neighborhood was quieter. The house itself, unfortunately, was, it wasn't in the best condition. Now, when I looked inside that particular house, for one, it smelled like dog, which I'm not going to buy a house that smells like dog because those type of smells could be difficult to get rid of. Some people may have to tear up their floors and put new flooring down to get rid of that smell. I'm not doing all that, so I'm not going to buy the house. And secondly, they advertised the house had new plumbing. So when I went to go look at the plumbing, I mean, from the part where most people could see, it did appear to have new plumbing. But then when you look down a little deeper into the crawl space, it looked like they took the PEX. They took the PEX and they connected it to galvanized. So they did a half-assed job on the plumbing. So that's another reason why I'm not going to buy that house, because the plumbing was half-assed done. And also, the house needs a new roof. And the next door neighbors, they had a couple of pit bull dogs that were walking around just barking real loud. So most likely I won't be buying that house for those reasons. And honestly, although I'm still looking at houses in major cities, I prefer smaller cities, because for the kind of money which I have, to where the kind of money I got set aside for investment properties, which is, I'm not going to give you guys the exact figure, but it's under $150,000. That's all you're getting. So for the money I got set aside for investment properties, I'm probably not going to be buying anything in a major city, because I feel that house-wise I'll get better bang for the buck in a smaller city, and tenant-wise I feel I'll get a better quality tenant. So this is where I'm at with my housing, with my real estate investing, I don't know what you call it, situation. And I'm still going to look at some more properties. And I'll give you guys an update video of how all that turns out. So, thanks for tuning in and watching. Everybody stay blessed. Catch you guys on the next one.